Hi everyone, my name is Alysha and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I've got a really exciting tutorial for you guys that comes in 3 parts. Today we are making our very own crochet version of the SKIMS like fluffy set. I'm so excited. Once I saw like Kim and Kylie post it, like it looks so soft, I knew that it would be like so great. But they're expensive and I thought, hey, I know what yarn is pretty similar to that, so let's try to make it for ourselves. As we're moving into the school year, it's almost my birthday. This would make for a great birthday gift for a friend, your mom. Like, my mom is obsessed with this. She literally wants to steal it already. And then with the holidays coming up, you could just start making these early for the holidays. So this video comes in 3 parts: the robe, the top, and the pants. So make sure to go watch those. Today, the video is for the robe, and we're gonna get into it. The only stitches that you really need to know are a half double crochet, a single crochet, and like a slip stitch. But other than that, it's really simple because we're just doing simple shapes as we walk through it. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Here is our final project. Here is our final product. Super cute, and I'll show you what it looks like on. So we're going to start with the back panel. So you want to make a chain that is long enough to reach across your shoulders, across your back. So I'm going to start with a slip knot and then chain 40. This is my first time working with a yarn so thick while doing crochet. So it's taking me a little bit to get used to it, but I'm just going to make that big long chain, and then I will meet you at the end. So now that I have my chain, I'm going to work across it with half double crochets. So yarning over, counting 2 from the hook, and inserting my hook. I yarn over again, pull through 1, yarn over again, pull through all 3. Yarn over, insert, pull through 1, pull through all 3. Yarn over, insert, pull through 1, pull through all 3. So I'm going to continue doing this all the way down the row, and I will meet you at the end of the row. So I'm at the end of my first row, so I'm going to chain 2, flip my work, and then just continue doing half double crochets. I know it's kind of hard to see with the white and it being so fluffy to find your stitches, but the more practice that you get, I find, the easier it gets. You don't even need to look for the stitches. It feels like my hook just like knows where to go, or like my hands are just like leading it there. And of course, if you make a mistake, you can always just pull out and try again. So you are going to keep doing just rows and rows and rows of half double crochet until you have the length of the robe that you want. I want mine to be rather long, maybe going down to like the backs of my knees. So I will be at this for a long time. So just keep doing rows and rows and rows of these half double crochets until you have your length from the tops of your shoulders all the way down to maybe covering your butt or down to the backs of your knees. I really like the look of the Team USA SKIMS robes, so that's why I want the long length. Alright, so I'm just going to keep going, and I will see you when I get that done. So this back panel is so big that it literally will not fit into any of my regular filming spaces, but I did around 60 rows of the half double crochet, and now I'm going to tie off and start with the front panels, and I will bring you in to see that. But yeah, it's so soft, like I'm obsessed with it already. Also, at this point, I have finished using 1 full ball of the blanket yarn and started a second one. And then just to tie off, I just snipped it off and just trying to do this with one hand. But yeah, pull it tight like that. Okay guys, this is the next piece that we're making. This is going to be one of our front panels, and then we're going to make an identical one for the other side. Okay guys, so to figure out how long we need to chain, we're going to do a little bit of math here, but stick with me. So however many stitches you did for your back panel, I did 40. You're going to divide that into 3. So mine is like 13 point whatever. So what I'm going to do is make a slip knot and chain 13. With your fingers, grab that 13th loop, chain 2, and then you are going to put a half double crochet in that one that you are holding. And just half double crochet across the row. You are going to do 9 rows total of just regular half double crochet. So I am going to meet you when I have 9 rows. This first row, this is row 1, and then 8 more. So I'll meet you there. All right, so now you should have your 9 rows done. And if you guys are hearing any snoring, that is from my beautiful little puppy here. She's so cute. This is Bailey. Anyways, back to regularly scheduled programming. So once you finish your 9th row, you may notice that you've got a little tail on the end here. And this is going to be an indicator for where we're going to make our increases, because as I showed you before, we're making kind of a slope so that you can cross over your robe. So for every row that you do, for the next whole bunch of rows, you are going to make an increase on every row that starts with this tail, just at the start. So you start your row like normal, put a half double crochet in that first stitch, and then in that very same hole that you just put a stitch into, you're going to put another half double crochet. Then you're just going to do normal half double crochets with no more increases all the way down the row. And I'm just gonna pop ahead. So I got to the end of my row, and since I don't have a little tail here, I'm not gonna do any increases for this whole next row. Just regular double crochets across the top. So I just noticed as I was doing my own working that where we added that stitch, it's a little bit difficult to kind of like find where you need to go in. Especially with this yarn, but just kind of like keep stabbing at it until you get it, because you want to make sure that you're going into every single stitch that you intended to. So we're at the end of our row, flipping, and now you notice we've got a little tail on the end, so we have to put an increase right at the beginning here. So one stitch and another in the same hole. And then we are just going to keep going down the row like normal. So the pattern for what we are going to do is, so every other row, I'm using this little tail as a marker for me. So for every other row, we are going to make an increase on one side, and then just continue with a regular half double crochet, and then just another row of half double crochet. You're going to keep making increases until your work comes big out long like this. I made mine. I kept making increases until my stitches along the row added up to 35. If you're doing different sizing than me, you want to keep adding stitches until you have 5 stitches less than what you did for your back panel. So I did 40 chains for my back panel. So I'm having 35 be like my final number for my front panel. And then once you reach that mark, so once you reach that 35, you're just going to complete it doing just a couple of rows of regular half double crochet with no increases or anything until you have the correct length for your panel. You can do this by counting stitches, or I just literally laid mine on top of each other to make sure that I got the length right. So yeah, make those increases on every other row until you have what you need. And I will meet you there. All right, so now we have both of our front pieces, 2 identical ones, and then our just one back piece. And we are going to attach them. So I am just laying one piece across the top of the back piece like this. I'm gonna make a slip knot. Put it on my hook, and I'm going to insert it into the corner in the first stitch of both the back panel and the front panel. We are going to make a slip stitch. So we're pulling through just like that. And now we are just going to go across the top with a single crochet, making sure that we're going in both the front panel and the back panel. Picking up a stitch from the front and the back until we get to the end of that front piece. So for me, that's only 13 stitches. And I got to the end, so I'm just gonna chain 1, pull up a little bit, snip and tie off. And we're gonna do the exact same thing on the other side with the other front panel. So see how that's on there now? I'm gonna attach that one to this side. Also, here's just a point that you guys should make note of, is that you know how your triangles kind of like point inward? You want that to point inward so that it covers you when you're putting it on. Right, so the 2 diagonal pieces converge in the center. So now you've got this vest piece. I want you to try it on. So I want you to measure out where you want your sleeve hole to be. You can mark it with a stitch marker or just a contrasting color of yarn, up to you. Just make sure that it's the same on both sides. You can either count your stitches or you can use a measuring tape just to see how big you want that hole to be. But just mark that on both sides, and then we're going to sew up the sides. So I've marked out where I want my stitches to stop so that I have my good armhole. And just like we did for the top seam, we're going to make a slip knot. Put that on our hook, and then I want to start at the bottom so that I make sure that this is lined up. I'm inserting my hook, making a slip stitch, and then doing single crochets all the way up the side. And I'm just going to keep doing this. It'll take me a bit to get all the way up to here. All right, so I have done my single crochet up the side, and I've stopped where I marked where I want my sleeve to go. So now what I'm going to do is chain 2, and I'm going to put double crochets all the way around this hole. There's no defined stitches because you're going up like the side of like the rows that you made. So I just kind of like stick my hook in wherever it goes kind of naturally. You don't want them too close or too far apart from each other. It might take some trial and error, but I'm just kind of going wherever I see a good hole to go into. And it should like technically be in every row, but especially with this yarn, sometimes it's hard to find. So I'm just going to keep going around, and I will meet you when I get to like the end of this row. So I've gone all the way around, and now instead of like making an attachment here and then starting a new row, I prefer the look where there's no seam going up the arm. One, I find it annoying, and two, I think that it just looks better. So what you're going to do is find your first stitch, which is kind of difficult with this yarn, and I'm just going to continue doing half double crochets all the way around. So do you see how they kind of like seamlessly blend together? I like that look. So I'm going to keep doing rows like this until I have like 5 times around the circle. You can remember it by looking at the seam that you made up the side, or just count it at the end. It doesn't need to be like a perfect 5, just do your best, honestly. So I'm just gonna meet you when I get there. Alright, so this is what my 5 rows of my sleeve looks like so far. And I've counted around, and it is 28 stitches around. With some trial and error, I figured out that for the rest of my sleeve, I want the armhole to be only 22 stitches. So that means that I need to make 6 decreases. If you've got a pretty wide arm all the way down, then you don't need to do these decreases, or you can do the decreases later. But I just found that this works for me. So what I'm going to do is make a decrease. So I'm going to start a half double crochet, so inserting my hook, pulling one through, and then without finishing it, I'm going to yarn over again, go into the very next stitch, pick one up, and decrease. And that's the first decrease. Now I'm just going to do 2 stitches without it. This is so it's like a little bit more consistent all the way around. And then I'm going to make another decrease. So pick up one, do the next stitch, pull through, and then 2 stitches without any decrease. Now I'm going to decrease again. And then 2 stitches without a decrease. Decrease again. And 2 stitches without a decrease. Decrease again. 2 stitches without a decrease. Decrease again. And 2 stitches without a decrease. again. And that was my last decrease. So now I'm just going to continue on the rest of the row with no decreases, just regular stitches. And now I have 22 stitches around, which is exactly what I need for my arm all the way down. It's going to be a little bit more tighter around my upper arm, and then not as tight as it goes down the arm, which I find to be pretty comfortable. Now I'm just going to do regular half double crochet around and around and around until I have enough to go all the way down my arm. I've got super long arms because I'm super tall. So this is pretty subjective based on your arm length. I find the best way just to see is to just keep trying it on, and then you can also see how fast you're working and how good your process is going along. And of course, if you make any mistakes or make it too tight or too big, you can always just pull it apart and go back to an earlier part in your work. So I'm just going to keep working these half double crochets around and around until I have a sleeve that looks like this one. Super simple. All right, I'll see you when I'm done that. So once you have your sleeve to the length that you want, what we're going to do is make a slip stitch. So we are inserting our hook without yarning over. We're going to pull through that loop. See how it makes it kind of flat? Chain one, snip your yarn, and tie off. Super simple. And now we're going to move on to the waist tie. So for the waist tie, you are going to make a slip knot and chain 5. Now we're going to yarn over, and not in the first loop from the hook but the second. We're going to insert a half double crochet and continue doing that down the row. Now that we're at the end, chain 2, flip our work, and continue doing half double crochets all the way down the row. Each row should have 4 stitches. Chain 2, flip your work, and we are just going to keep making rows and rows and rows until you have a waist tie that is long enough for you. I'm going to make mine extra long so that I have lots of room to tie and even make a bow around my waist. So I finished my little strap that goes around my waist, and now we're going back to the main base of the coat. At this point you might want to flip your coat inside out, or right side out, so that all of your seams are hidden on the inside. And now I want you to try on your coat and make a mark where you want to put your loops so that your waist tie will stay up. Okay, so now wherever you marked, I did it so that it hits right at my waist so that I can cinch in at my waist when I'm wearing it. So now we are going to make a slip knot. Put it on your hook and just pick up a stitch where you made that mark and make a slip stitch. Now that you've got that attached, I want you to chain 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then you go around 3 or 4 rows down, pick up another stitch, and make a slip stitch there as well. Chain 1, pull up a little bit, snip and tie off, and we're all done. For your extra hanging threads, you can go in from the back, take your hook to grab them and just pull them through so that they're on the inside and you have a nice looking thing on the outside. Super simple, just pull it through. And boom, so beautiful. Let's see what it looks like on. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it so much. If you make anything that I've shown you in this video, I would love to see it. Make sure to check me out on Instagram or TikTok. I love seeing your comments, your DMs, your messages, everything. Like, it means a lot to me, so thank you so much. All right, bye.